Hi, my name is Dan Kaufman. A year ago, I took a 10-day regimen of an antibiotic called Levaquin for an upper respiratory infection. Levaquin is in a class of drugs called fluoroquinolones. Fluoroquinolones have the distinction of producing a devastating set of side effects in a notable minority of people who take them, sometimes from as few as 1 or 2 pills. I am one of thousands suffering from the side effects. For the first few days after taking the drug, I could barely walk. And it would be weeks until I could walk more than a block, and months before I could go downstairs without extreme difficulty. I was 45 at the time, and I felt like I'd been physically aged 20 years in just 10 days. My doctor didn't know what was going on with me. He had taken the same drug at the same time, and he felt fine. I, on the other hand, ended up going to an orthopedist, then to an emergency room, then to a rheumatologist, and finally to a physical therapist as we narrowed down my diagnosis to Levaquin toxicity-induced tendinitis. I found a Facebook page dedicated to other people who were in various stages of suffering just like me, and that's when things really started to make sense. The symptoms I'd been experiencing so acutely were talked about over and over by victims of the terrible side effects from this class of drugs. In a way, I almost feel lucky because many people describe symptoms far worse than mine in severity and level of disability. I don't need a cane or a walker, I don't suffer from tinnitus or brain fog, and because I've been very careful, I have not yet experienced any burst tendons. But we all share this in common. We all put our faith in a drug company, and a federal agency that were supposed to help and safeguard us, but instead made us much, much sicker. If more than one person comes down with a food-related illness like salmonella, the CDC considers that an outbreak, and the food producer is shut down until the source of the problem can be found and eliminated. Yet thousands and thousands of people can suffer life-changing, devastating side effects from one of the most prescribed classes of drugs in the country, and all the FDA requires is a little black box around the grossly inadequate and out-of-date warning about possible side effects. And that black box isn't even required to be shown to patients by the drugstores and other dispensaries, so most consumers will never see it. Here's what the FDA-required black box warning looks like. This is what I received from CVS. Here's how I think it should look. The way I see it, there are 3 problems. First, the drug manufacturers don't care because they're literally making billions of dollars a year on these drugs. Second, the FDA isn't aware of the extent of the problem because most doctors aren't aware of the extent of the problem. And third, most patients who suffer even minor injury don't think they can or should do anything about it, or they don't make the connection between their injury and the antibiotic, so they don't report their experiences to their doctors or to the FDA. We can't do much about the first problem. At the risk of sounding like a crazy conspiracy theorist, the drug company executives care more about profits than about health. It's very sad, but it's also very true. But we can do something about the other 2 problems. If you've taken Levaquin or another fluoroquinolone and you've suffered even one of the known side effects like tendon damage, tell your doctor and report the side effects to the FDA on their website listed in the video description below. Even if it was months or years ago, report it. Some people don't experience the side effects until months after taking it. In my case, when I saw that the warning applied mostly to people over 60 years of age, I didn't think it really applied to me. But in reality, a large number of people who suffer the side effects are well below 60 years old. If you've been prescribed a fluoroquinolone, pay really close attention to your body and talk to your doctor immediately if you feel any of the symptoms that are listed in the literature that is provided with your prescription, or go to the drug's website and read the description there. If you're not in the habit of reading drug side effects labels, this is one time when you're really going to want to do that. It's drilled into us when we're young that we should always finish an antibiotic, and that's one of the things that drove me to finish my 10-day prescription. But that's not always true, and it's not true with fluoroquinolones if they're doing more harm than good. And it couldn't hurt to ask your doctor if something else will be just as effective. In my case, Levaquin was complete overkill. These drugs are used for really serious problems like anthrax poisoning and infections that won't respond to other drugs. If given the choice between death and disability, I'd choose disability, but that wasn't the choice I needed to make. My hope in making this video is that I can help others become aware of the devastating side effects of this class of drugs and hopefully prevent them from suffering my fate. Today, a year after taking Levaquin, I'm still experiencing the side effects. I can walk better now, but I still have unstable, unreliable knees and ankles, as well as pain and stiffness, all of which prevent me from doing anything more physical than walking. Dancing used to be one of my passions and joys, but now I can barely make it through one song on the dance floor. Rowing season is beginning again, and my team is on the water while I'm stuck on shore. Nobody knows when or if my situation will improve. This shouldn't have happened to me, and I'm sorry if it's happened to you. Please help make sure it doesn't happen to anyone else. The more information patients, doctors, and the FDA have, the more of a case there will be to better regulate this class of dangerous drugs. My other goal is hopefully to garner enough of a case against this class of drugs to make patients, doctors, pharmacies, the FDA, and the drug manufacturers aware that these problems exist, they're serious, and they need to be addressed. I'm not saying these drugs should be taken off the market altogether. They do help many sick people get better. But a notable minority of us have had our lives turned upside down by fluoroquinolones, and we don't know why. We didn't sign up to be guinea pigs or collateral damage when we took these drugs. We only wanted to feel better, and by taking them, we are much, much worse. Please do what you can to spread the word about these drugs, and please pass along this video to your family, friends, co-workers, and others. These drugs are prescribed with stunning regularity to millions of people suffering minor problems that could be better addressed with much more sensible medication or simply left to heal on their own over time. I've included links below to news stories about the growing awareness of this problem, as well as the FDA's Adverse Events Reporting website. If you're in another country, just do a web search for reporting adverse events to your government's drug regulation agency. Thanks for listening.